if you're struggling, there is this girl named Brittany, and she is putting on this 3-day workshop that is free. And like, you absolutely cannot turn this down. And I thought, okay, what do I have to lose? So I signed up, and when I tell you that my entire life changed in a matter of an hour and a half, that very first, the very first course in the Uplifted Challenge was like a total awakening for me.
Where would you take your life if you knew you could not fail? I get it. As a stepmom, mom, and entrepreneur, sometimes it can feel like what everyone else expects of you versus what you dream about for yourself are on opposite ends of the spectrum. As a woman, you're taught from a very young age what society thinks you're worth based on how you look, how you behave, and how much money you're allowed to bring in. But I'm here to show you that you can be the woman who has it all, and not just on the outside. I'm Brittany Lynch, and you are the queen of your castle.
Okay, here we go. We're live on Facebook. You are live, ladies, FYI. Hello, viewers, tuner inners, watchers, joiners, members. Welcome to our Stepmom Story Alumni panel. If you are wondering what the heck is an alumni panel, these 4 beautiful women that you see sitting in front of you are members of the program I talk about all of the time called Your Stepmom Story. And Your Stepmom Story is the program I am so proud to facilitate, where women like this join in hopes of finding their happily ever after. And some of them, like these women, just happen to find it. So today, what we're going to be doing is opening up for some questions. Okay, so each of these ladies is going to go ahead and introduce herself, let you know, where was she just a few short months ago for some, what brought them to the Uplifted Challenge and then into the Stepmom Story after that. What were the things that they struggled with, the things that really were getting in the way of their happiness way back when. And what is life like now that they have joined the Stepmom Story, now that mindfulness is really a pillar of how they live their lives? I think you're going to be really amazed at the strength and the hope and the amazingness that these women have to share with you. I'm so honored to be gathering here with them because they're just the best. I love this group so much. I love our sisterhood so much. And I think we've all been in a place in our stepmom journey where we felt totally hopeless. We've all had that bathroom floor moment, that crying, dying in the bathtub moment where we're like, I don't know how much longer I can do this for. Maybe I'm not cut out for stepmomming. I've tried everything. I've done it all. There's no hope. And I know each of the people on this call have been in a place where they're like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. This is so hard. I can't keep going on the way that I'm doing this. And now they're here to inspire you and tell you how they did it. So each of the girls, women, ladies are going to go through and share their stories with you. So if you're watching, go ahead and say hi for me. Hi, Nikki. Nikki's here. Hi, Nikki. If you're watching live, go ahead and say hello. Let me know where you are tuning in from. And then I'll get the ladies to go around and share a bit about their stories. And if at any time they're talking about something that brings up a question for you and you want to know more about that, all you've got to do is type your questions in this comment box, okay? And then when everyone's done sharing their stories, I'm going to relay the questions to everybody and they will have an opportunity to answer those questions for you, okay? Hi, Francesca, sup from Texas, Julia, hi. Brittany, hi. Amanda, hi. Amy, hi. Eileen, hello from Philadelphia. Trail, BC, nice. Another Canadian. Hi, Alexis from Eau Claire. We're so glad to have you all here. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us. We are so happy to see you. So, Lindsay, why don't you go ahead, just because you're kind of an OG Stepmom Story member, you were a part of the Stepmom Story before it was even called the Stepmom Story. I think you were one of the first people that helped build it, helped test it, helped make it an idea that now we have 50 women and lots of continents who are a part of it. So Lindsay, you can go ahead and open up your microphone, share some of your story with us. Some people have probably saw on the case study page. Some people are probably a little bit familiar with your story, but let's hear it from your mouth. You know, where were you just a couple of years ago when you stumbled across Step Queen? What were the things that you struggled with? What did you learn, and what's life for you like for you now that you have been a part of the Stepmom Story for a couple of years now?
Okay, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. My name's Lindsay and I'm from Alberta, Canada. I'm a divorced mother myself, so I have 2 bio kids with my ex-husband. I've been with my fiancé, Jason, now for over 6 years. And he has 2 sons from his first marriage. So I have 4 boys in total. We've been living together for about 4.5 years now. We should have been married this year. Blovid has stopped that twice because we're getting married in Maui. So fingers crossed, next July is a go. When it comes to the kids, we both have 50-50 custody of our children. Mine are on a 2-week rotation and his are on a 1-week rotation. So our life looks like there's a week where we have just his kids, a week where we have just my kids, a week where we have all 4, and then we have a kid-free week every month. Obviously, that can fluctuate if things come up and whatnot, but that's pretty much the standard. I've been working with Brittany now for almost 2 years, and it's been amazing. So I have a lot of trauma and a lot of history in my life, and some of the themes and stories that I've carried with me through life are that everyone leaves me, I'm not enough, and I'm never chosen. And those obviously compounded when I became a stepmom. Being a mom myself, I honestly thought blending would be very easy, especially with having all 4 boys. They're all like, our 2 oldest are the same age, and then our 2 youngest are the same age. So I thought it would be pretty easy because we'd both been through divorces and whatnot. I just thought it would be a very much smoother transition than it was. So before I met Brittany, I would say that the biggest things I was struggling with in my home was that I very much felt unappreciated, and very much felt unseen. There were weeks where his kids could be home and they wouldn't say a word to me for 7 days. And it was almost like the life operated around me and I was just a spectator of our home. I felt like a roommate and not feeling like our house was my home. Jason was very good at referring to the house as our home from the get-go as soon as I moved in. I could not refer to it as our home or my house, probably up until a couple years ago. And even now he'll correct me. So it's obviously still something that, is still kind of there at times. I have a huge fear of abandonment, and that my fiance will leave. That stems from my childhood, my mom died when I was young. I have a horrific stepmom experience myself growing up, and I left home at 16. So there comes, my dad not choosing me. So it starts very young. And then I was in a very toxic relationship after my marriage for 3 years. So there's a huge abandonment feeling, which also comes with the feeling of not being chosen. And I think I see it as a theme with a lot of women in the group, that we feel like our significant other chooses their children over us in many different situations. And it can be very small things to very big things. And I find that for me, those are very much related, because there are some issues with his one son, that there's also a fear for me that he'll choose him over me, if push came to shove. I always kind of put everyone else ahead of me, and I silenced my own voice and my own needs and feelings. I even put Jason and his kids ahead of my own kids, probably for the first 2 or 3 years of the relationship, which I recognize now was my mistake, because I left my kids feeling unprotected in some situations with his son. Like another running theme, I think, with most of you is there's resentment towards the ex-wife, disagreeing with specific parenting choices or lack thereof, her lack of respect for boundaries when it comes to the relationship Jason's in now and the life he has now. And then life with a stepchild who has mental illness and behavior issues, which in turn, the family dynamic with that, there's been behaviors and actions towards one of my sons that has caused a lot of problems in the past, and the effect that it has on like the whole family. So those were I think my biggest struggles. And then I crossed paths with Brittany kind of through social media, the podcast. We connected, started messaging, and I kind of joined some of her initial programs. And then as the story was being developed, and when the option was put out to me to join the story, I was kind of like, well, this is a no-brainer. I very much need this. And like a lot of people as well, finances were a bit of a question. But I also knew it was kind of a necessity, like I need to do this inner work. So I think the work is worth it. So for those of you that are new to like the Uplifted program, it takes a lot of hard, deep work. I think the step families aren't the cause of the problems. They just kind of reflect stuff that's there. And one of the things I learned was so how it's helped me, I guess, would be that identifying the roots and causes to all my insecurities, my fears, my triggers. So you can be triggered or hurt or caused pain by current situations that are completely valid. The ex-wife can hurt you. Your spouse can hurt you. The kids can hurt you in a present moment. But I find that pain can be compounded by your past, your thought processes. So the story has definitely helped me dig up and recognizing what those roots are and where the deeper level of why I'm being triggered and where it comes from. The mindfulness is huge. Learning how to recognize my overthinking, where you get trapped. You'll learn about Gina if you don't know about Gina yet. You learn to recognize when Gina starts to run on the wheel in your head. And overthinking is a big thing. Overthinking about the present, the past, but also about what potentially could come that hasn't even happened yet. And while some of even those potentially could become a reality, worrying about it before they've happened does nobody any good. And with that, I've learned how to shift my perspective. So when things happen now, I can kind of try to put myself in Jason's shoes, where he might be coming from, where his feelings might be coming from. I try to put myself in his ex-wife's shoes when certain things happen. All 4 of the kids. So the mindfulness and awareness, I think, is huge. And then with that also comes a shift back to self-love. I think we all struggle with loving ourselves and finding our own worth. And until you heal old wounds from your past, I think, and your past traumas, you can't fully release the roots that you find. I've also learned to recognize habits and thought processes, and that they're all linked. So the story has very much shown me that what I'm learning and applying in the program isn't just for my step family. It's very much affecting career and work choices, finances, the way I parent my own kids, my relationships with my family, like my dad and my sister, friendships. So it's very much an all-encompassing program. I think people are so focused on just the stepmom aspect of it. And I have found that it's changing my life kind of in a more broad spectrum. And then the biggest part is not feeling alone. The community in this group is a lifesaver, because I think Gina brings us down the rabbit hole of where we spiral and we think no one understands. And this community has been amazing for that. So I think those would be the biggest things. Yeah.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks so much for sharing all that. Yeah, you've come so far in 2 years. It's very extraordinary to watch. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sarah Gale, you're next up on my screen. If you want to open up and let us know a bit about your story, you know, what brought you into the stepmom story? What did you struggle with? What did you learn? And what is life like for you now?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sarah, the jealous stepmom. No. Yeah, so in the beginning of my journey, the biggest thing for me was jealousy. So Luke and I were together, my partner Luke, we were together for a year before I met the kids. And so before that, it was like me and him, and all of his attention was on me, and we're in this like blissful bubble. And then I met the kids, and it was like, well, what the hell? Like, what about me? And so from there, like, I just started spiraling down and down, and it was getting worse and worse. Like, I would throw these like stepmom tantrums and like pick fights for no reason, or it made me dislike the kids, didn't want them around, or I'd always find something else to do. Or if they were like throwing a tantrum of their own because they're little and little kids do that, I would in turn throw my own tantrum like, oh, you're getting attention? I'll get bigger attention. I'll get more attention. Like, it was bad. So I was part of this like big Facebook group of stepmoms, you know, the toxic ones. And I was venting in one of them one day, and somebody had posted a link to Brittany's blog. And it like spoke to me. I was like, who is this woman? I need to know this woman. I need to talk to her. So I found your podcast, Brittany's podcast, and started listening to all the podcasts, and then eventually connected with Brittany. And she told me she was doing an uplifted challenge. So about a year ago. And I got in on it, and it was crazy, the progress I made in just a week. So that's when I started to see like, okay, well, things can be better. And so I joined the story, which changed my life. I say this all the time, and I'm sure it's getting old, but even if I wasn't a stepmom, the story would have changed my life. Like, it changed everything about my life. Like, it really, at the beginning, I'd say the first like 2-3 months of being in the story, we worked through like my stepmom issues and my issues with the stepkids. Like, Brittany gave me some resources to read. Now my stepdaughter and I are little besties, and And then we took like a deeper dive into everything else that's going on in my life. So like we were in like mountains of debt, and now we're not. And I had all these stories about, especially about money, about like women just don't make as much money as men, and I'll just accept that. So as a whole, it really did change my life in every aspect. So I feel like my problems with the kids were so easily fixed once I figured out that these are like stories in my head. These are the facts. Look at the facts versus the stories, and this is how we're going to deal with it. And it really was simple, because in the story, like it's laid out for you. Like every tool you need, every piece you need is there. And then along with that is just like the support. So Brittany's support and the support of our community, it's been really like transformative. Like I can't, looking back at who I was, like this angry, mean, drunk stepmom who wanted nothing to do with her kids, to now we're planning a trip with the kids. Like I never in a million years could have imagined spending money on the kids. And now this is what our life has come to. Like it's honestly peaceful. And then like my own self-growth is insane. Like now I'm working towards becoming a stepmom coach of my own under Brittany, and working towards like bigger goals I never could have imagined even possible. It's like 1 minute it's in my head, and then I convince myself it's impossible, and then it's gone. And I've finally been able to get to a point where I'm past that and can see that anything you can think can happen. Like you're capable of absolutely anything. And had I not had my step family, I never would be here right now. So really, like my step family has been the biggest blessing that ever could have happened to me. And I never could have imagined myself saying that ever, because the kids drove me nuts. Luke's attention to them drove me nuts. Living in a house with them drove me absolutely nuts. And now it really is the greatest blessing that's ever happened to me.
Thanks, Sarah. I feel like people are like, you're so full of shit when I say, you know, my step family is the biggest blessing that's ever happened in my life, because you're right. You know, if you're not a stepmom, you don't like get to that such a low place, there's no reason to get any better. There's no reason to learn how to parent calmly and not yell at your kids and not spank your kids if you're a bio parent, because you're just allowed to do whatever because they're your kids, right? You don't have to refrain yourself and think about maybe doing things differently. You don't have to break patterns of generational trauma that have been passed along the line, even like sending your kids to their room or putting them in the corner, you know, stuff that we would think is like gentle parenting. If you are not a stepmom, you don't have to like think twice about that. You just do it. You don't have to think twice about being intentional with your marriage, right? You don't have to think twice about any of that, because so many people in nuclear families just show up, right, and do things the way that they've always been done. And that's one of the blessings I think about the story, is that you really get to ask yourself the question, just because this is the way it's always been done, is it still the right way? And is it the right way for me in my family dynamic? Right? Not the right way for Sally, not the right way for Lindsay, not the right way for Christy. Is it the right way for me? Right. And that's why I'm going to poo-poo on some of those other groups for a minute. That's why those other groups don't work, is because it's all about giving advice and telling you how I think you should fix your problem. But that doesn't work, right? That's not what this story is about. It's helping you understand and recognize that you do know the answers. You do have the strength. You know everything. You have all the tools you need inside of you. It's just learning how to trust that and heal the stuff that's getting in your way. So thanks, Sarah, so much for sharing. Watchers, viewers, if you have any questions for Lindsay or Sarah so far, just go ahead and type them in the chat. And Christy, you're next up on my screen. So why don't you go ahead and share a little bit of your story. You're kind of the rookie of the group, the newbie. We love having you. You've come so far in such a short period of time. It's been really amazing to watch. So same question for you. You know, what brought you to the Uplifted Challenge and then into the Stepmom story? What were you really struggling with? What have you learned? And what is life like for you now? Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Christy, and I live also in Alberta in Canada. I have only been working with Brittany for 6 months or something like that, since the last Uplifted challenge. So not very long. And basically, so to give you some backstory of kind of where I came from and how I found her, I have been with my boyfriend Ray for almost 4 years. He has 2 kids, a son who is almost 14 and a daughter who is 11. I didn't meet them until we had been dating for 6 months. And from there, the option was always given to them that, I'll be here as much as you want me to be here. So if you want me here, I'll be here. And if you want to spend time with your dad, I'll go. Because I just felt like they had so much going on and they didn't get a choice in anything. So, that was really a big thing to me. And they never wanted me to leave. Still to this day, if I am going to run an errand, they want to make sure I'm coming back. So I've been very, very blessed in the fact that, my stepkids are really amazing kids. And, Ray is very understanding. He was a step parent to 5 kids for 7 years. So he at least kind of understands where I'm coming from. But we went from having them every other week to there being some issues with drug abuse and actual abuse and a whole other slew of things. And so overnight, I literally became a full-time mom. And so I went from only have to thinking about myself to having to think about everybody else. And I went to the bottom of the list because that's how I am. And it got to the point where I was so overwhelmed. We were, dealing with all of these court issues. It came to a time when we actually couldn't afford to pay a lawyer anymore because it was that ridiculous. So I was our lawyer. I was the one who was sending emails back and forth and writing legal things up. And, and it was so overwhelming. It was insane. And, the ex is not easy. She is high conflict. She, is not very reasonable. And I have had, real issues with her because no matter how many times I've told her, I'm not here to take your place, it doesn't seem like she understands that. And so it's been very frustrating. So anyways, we had them full-time for a little under 2 years. And then slowly they worked back to being 50-50. And even that transition was very difficult. And during that transition, I was at the point where I honestly thought that within days, I could have ended up in the hospital, like mental breakdown, full on. Like I could not handle one more thing. Like if there was a piece of sand that came on top, I was done. That was it. I was constantly begging for help, and I was miserable. I was not somebody that was fun to be around, because I could not handle my own life and I couldn't handle everybody else's issues and my issues. I have chronic illness, I have mental health issues. It's just a whole storm of things that kind of came to a head. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And that was very hard for me because I love Ray and I love his kids. But it just got to the point where I was like, I don't know if I can handle this, for the rest of my life. So I was just literally at the end of my rope. And, I had followed other stepmom groups and they were kind of all, woe is me and she's so terrible. And yeah, you kind of read them and go, yeah, I understand, but it doesn't make you feel any better. And so I ended up somehow coming across Kristen Stiles from Stepmomming, and she sent out an email and it said, If you're struggling, there is this girl named Brittany, and she is putting on this 3-day workshop that is free. And like, you absolutely cannot turn this down. And I thought, okay, what do I have to lose? So I signed up, and when I tell you that my entire life changed in a matter of an hour and a half, that very first, the very first course in the Uplifted Challenge was like a total awakening for me. You know, I'd had people tell me all the time, like, oh, you need to practice mindfulness and you need to work on yourself and you need to take time for yourself. And I always just thought, like, to me, like, honestly, what I understood mindfulness to be was like doing 5-minute meditations and things like that. And I was like, I don't see how that's going to help me. And so it was taking that first course and having Brittany explain that, like, it's not about doing things for 5 minutes a day. It's about practicing it constantly. That was a total eye opener. And everything just kind of clicked for me. And I was like, oh my God, like, that actually makes so much sense. And so I was able to finally, you know, catch myself having these thoughts constantly and going to these places where I didn't want to be, and being able to go, no, I'm not going to go there. You know, and kind of coming back to like the present. And I mean, I never would have been able to do that before because I didn't understand what it was. I really didn't. So after doing the whole Uplifted Challenge, I knew that I had to be a part of the story. I just knew there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I had to figure out a way that I could do this because I needed the help. And so, you know, I looked at it and I was like, oh, I don't know, like, you know, I'm on a fixed income because I'm on disability. Like, I have all of these other expenses. Where am I going to find this money? Like, you know, that might be the thing that makes it so I can't do it. And so I went to Brittany and just said, hey, you know, like, I need to do this. Can we figure this out? And she was amazing and was like, yeah, you know what, like, we'll sort it out. And we were able to work out, you know, a payment arrangement or whatever that was feasible for me. And honestly, in the 6 months that I've been doing this, between the work in the story that, you know, like the other girls have said, really has little to do with being a stepmom and so much to do with working on yourself as a person and figuring out, you know, what makes you tick and what makes you, you know, go off the deep end, and, you know, how to come to a place where that doesn't happen, and how to figure out, you know, how to control things and how to understand yourself better. It has been amazing. It's been totally transformative. I love that Brittany is absolutely no bullshit. You know, she's not somebody that's going to let you go, oh, boo-hoo, poor me. You know, I'm just going to sit here and cry myself to sleep. Like, she's going to be like, no, you know, what are you going to do to change it? Because there's something you can always do. And I absolutely love that about her, because I needed somebody, and I still need somebody to, you know, kind of hold my feet to the fire and go, no, you're stronger than that. Figure it out. So amazingly, you know, in 6 months, we've 2 days ago got Ray finally signed his divorce agreement, which I never thought was going to happen. We're finally like actually looking at having our own child, which again, I was like, I don't think these things are ever going to come. You know, I really thought my dreams were just going to have to take a backseat, and that was the end of it. So it's been great. The ex has actually been reasonable and rational, and that's been weird, but fantastic. And, I'm just hoping that it stays that way and choosing to believe that this is the way it's going to be. Instead of constantly thinking, when is this going to end? And when is this going to go back to being terrible? And, Brittany has said many times that things can be great, and then the ex-wife moves next door. Well, that's me. She literally moved a block away. She can see my house from her bedroom. So let's hope it stays great, but it's honestly changed everything. And I tell Brittany all the time, I've told her many times that, she has honestly changed my life. And I don't know where I would be without her and without, all the rest of these amazing women who are so supportive and get it and have been through kind of similar things or are going through them. And so you actually feel like you're not alone. And, she always says that I have to take responsibility for doing the hard work myself. And that's got to be the hardest thing that I've done. But, I have done a lot of hard work, and I'm very proud of that. And, if any of you guys have taken, are taking this challenge and feel like this might be right for you, I'm telling you, don't even think twice, because you won't find a better group of people. So, yeah.
Thank you, Christy. That was so touching. You've been such a great addition to our group. It's been so amazing. And I was thinking, I used that hypothetical example of, everything's fine now, but what happens when the ex moves next door? I was like, okay, man, I'm going to manifest this for somebody eventually. I have to stop saying it. And then, but the beautiful thing is that it happened now when you're in a place when this is happening, right? This is happening now in a place where you're like, I can deal with it. Right? If this would have happened 6 months ago, I would imagine it would have been a little bit of a different reaction than right.
I would have gone off the deep end.
Away. Right. Most of us would, though. Right.
Yeah. And now instead I'm able to be at a place where I'm like, well, you know what? I'm just going to choose to believe that it is possible that it's going to stay good. And if it doesn't, I'll figure it out when it happens. But I'm not going to sit here and constantly worry about when the other shoe is going to drop, because maybe it won't. And that's something I could never have done before. So
amazing work. We're so proud of you. Proud of you.
Thanks.
And yes, you do have to take the credit for doing the work, because other than hold your feet to the fire, you're the one. I have done nothing. You're the one that's done all of it. All of you are the ones that have done everything. So I can't take credit for your work. Right? I can't eat for you. You're doing it. So, thanks everyone for your nice supportive comments in the Facebook group. If you have any questions for Nikki, go ahead and type them below. We're going to get to questions as soon as our caboose and Gatchel Green Street. Our caboose is here to share her wonderful story. And take it away.
All right. Thanks everyone for your stories. It's also awesome to hear. Yes, so my name is Anne and I live in Boulder, Colorado in the United States. And I have been married to my husband for 4 years now, a little over 4 years. And I've been living with them for 5 years now, which is crazy. So I actually, I started working with Brittany last year, like a year ago. And I found her through looking at like some resources like from the Stepmom magazine website, because someone was like, I was like, I need a counselor. I need like someone like, where can I find these people? And so someone in those forums was like, they have a list of people here. And so I started like reading through people, and like the moment I went to like to Brittany's page, I was like, yes, this is who I want to be. Like, this is, it was just like, I was like, I got to like reach out to her. So I reached out, and like Uplifted had been over. I don't know how long yet, but I don't know. We talked and decided to have me join the story. So that it was just, I was so ready to, to make a change and like work on this. Like I was like at the point where I was like, I need to do something. So it was like, by the time I found her, it's like, it's a no-brainer. So, but like leading up to that, I'd say like one of the biggest areas of change for me was, I was like not coming into like a relationship with kids. I hadn't been, I didn't babysit like when I was younger. I feel, and it's funny because like with other random kids, I still have a little bit of this. Like I feel like I don't know what to say to you, like to children, to kids. I'm just not a natural, I don't think. And so it was kind of like, I would just kind of like, I'd be with the kids, and they like would have, they could have a good time, but I just felt like unnatural, and it was a little easier, like with my stepdaughter. She was like as she went into middle school and stuff, like it was like, oh, I remember this phase, or like, oh, I remember like this part of my life. So it was a little easier. It was just, and she's a lot like my husband. So it's like, we just, it was a little easier to kind of navigate it, but I still had issues I was trying to figure out how to behave in the right way for. But I was having like a harder time connecting with my stepson, or feeling good and natural with my stepson. And my answer like to it was generally just like, okay, I'm just gonna like avoid interaction, and like continue to pull back, and like keep bringing up like how or why this is difficult with my husband. And so I would kind of let it build up, and then we'd have like a discussion about it. And it wasn't good. I was like, while the kids were like, are, awesome kids, and like, they were nice to me. They've always been sweet. I just didn't know how to be. And so I hope that makes sense when I say that, but I just like, I felt like, okay, I don't feel like settled and comfortable, like even when I'm at home. And then, and then it was sort of compounded. And I told Brittany this, I think when I started talking with her, but it was compounded by like also not feeling settled at work. And so I was like, where do I go? Like, I don't know what to do. So, yeah, like just, and the pandemic, which now it's like, I don't know, I felt like the pandemic has been like this crucible to like kind of like make things a little even more intense, which I'm like, it's like, yeah, would I have reached, that critical point without the pandemic? I don't know, but yeah, I'm really thankful for all the change that I've undergone during it. But yeah, so it was like, I decided like I have to find some other source of support from someone who understands like these specific issues. Because I did have like, I had like my acupuncturist I was seeing, kind of like I would talk with her sort of in a therapy capacity, and that was very helpful. But like, again, it's just good to have like that stepmom perspective. So, so after joining, like things, I dove in, like I took it very seriously. And just like the changes have been like amazing. And I say the same thing as Sarah. Like, I feel kind of like bad that I can't, I'm like, I want to recommend like that my other friends, do the stepmom story, but I can't because they're not stepmoms. So I'm like, I'm sorry that you're not stepmom, but yeah, it's just so amazing. And what was really cool was that, so like while I was like gaining all of these tools to see my life in this different way, it's like Brittany would bring in like different specialists so it was like kind of this melding of like stuff specific to, kids or like, or a lot of specialists just had to do with yourself, but just like the melding of the work of the mindfulness work with like those specialists, like allows you to hear it in a different way. As we went into like the spring, my stepson was struggling because like making like a new middle schooler do school online is just, it's just mean. So he was having trouble in there. And I ended up being for like a couple months there, like the go-to like helper for him. And I was able to approach that in just in a giving way, not in, I need to do this or else he's like, or all these consequences are going to happen. It was like from a place of like love and giving, which just if you went back a year from then, like I looked at my like journal, it just would never ever have been able to happen. I just would not have been able to operate in that way. And it wasn't just schoolwork. It was like, I just started to have like connection points with him that were awesome. And like, I'm so happy about where our relationship is today. And and just, I think a good way to summarize all that is like that with all of these tools that we learn, it's like I'm trying to make up a metaphor right now, but like you're not being tossed in the middle of a wave. It's like you're watching the waves instead of just being inside them, kind of. And so it's like, and that applies to like all life challenges, because new ones keep coming up, just like Brittany, just like she was just saying, like with like someone, the next life could move in next door. There's always some new thing that's going to happen, and transition to teen years, like transition to new schools, all of that stuff. Stuff that could have sent me like tossing in waves, like freaking out about what we're going to do. I'm able to like step back and look at it from a different viewpoint. So super awesome.
Thanks,
awesome.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's cool to watch how you've become his tutor, his most trusted tutor, from running from the hills to becoming his most trusted tutor. That's kind of one of the places that I bonded with that is one of the places that I started bonding with my stepson as well. I was kind of the same way. I loved kids, but I grew up with girls. I didn't know what to do with boys. My stepson and I just are not the same kind of people. It was a really hard bonding experience. Plus, like Lindsay, my stepson has got some diagnoses and special needs that make relationships a little more challenging to develop with him as it is. So that was kind of one of the ins for us in developing our relationship too, was school tutoring, So
yeah, school's awesome.
School's awesome. Yeah, good thing I loved school. Otherwise,
I know we do.
Yeah. Okay, so last call now, ladies, for questions. We do have one question that's coming so far for Sarah. And Sarah, that question is, are there still some times when you get annoyed or irritated with your stepkids? You inspire me by being besties with your stepdaughter. That's from Nikki. We love you, Nikki.
We love you, Nikki. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. 1,000,000,000%. They annoy the shit out of me on a daily basis. But the difference is I don't throw a tantrum anymore. So I've been able to implement boundaries that work for me. So right now with the pandemic going on, I'm working from home. They're on summer holidays. They're constantly around. They're little. They make a lot of noises. I get irritated. So instead of like bursting at the seams, I just remove myself or like carve out time. I know they want my attention. So I'll like sometimes I have to work myself up to it. Like, okay, yes, you're going to do this at 4 o'clock from 5 o'clock. You're going to play with them and you're going to like it. And it works, you know? And then sometimes it's like, you do that and then you can have a bath. Yeah, you're going to take a bath after. Reward myself because they do drive me insane sometimes, but they're little and kids are annoying and that's normal. But I mean, my stepdaughter and I didn't always have this relationship. There was times where we were watching TV and I was sitting beside Luke on the couch and she would full on kick me until I'd get off the couch or slam doors in my faces. Like we were not always besties. It took a lot of work and a lot of compassion for me to get to this place with her. I did a lot of reading on kids and like why their brains work the way they do, because I was just like, Brittany, they're so annoying. Why did she do this? Why is she so annoying? Just make her stop. Where's the off button on this thing? So like understanding kids' brains and how that works really helps me have the compassion I need to deal with it. We had a speaker come in, or Brittany had a speaker come in, and she was like a I don't even know, like a child psychologist or something. And she gave us this metaphor, and this has stuck with me and helped me through every, like with my stepson too, through every tantrum, every outburst, anything. And so she had like this cup metaphor. So it was like a happy cup and a sad cup. And so you think of it through the day and it's like the kids are in school and, oh, their best friend gave them a hug today and that fills up their happy cup. Oh, but someone stole the crayons, like, you know, being like 5 and someone stole your favorite crayons. Like, oh, that's another drop in the sad cup. And then they come home from school and the cup's overflowing and you're dealing with this like massive outburst and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? But when you look at it from that perspective, like it gives me so much compassion. Like poor little thing didn't get the yellow crayon and then maybe someone stepped on her foot and she fell down and now her sad cup is full and she just needs to let it all out. So coming to a place from compassion really helps me. But yes, they do very much annoy me to this day. And they probably always will. And that's okay.
And that's okay. Something I say to myself all the time is that, like, I don't even like myself every day. So how is it possible to like expect me to like another human every second of every single day, right? Like sometimes I need a break from myself. Okay. So it's just part of being a human. But yeah, that cups analogy was super helpful. Catherine, I'm going to bring her in again because she was amazing. Thank you, Sarah. That was great. We have an amazing question, not for anyone specifically, from Julia. So anyone who wants to take this, go ahead and open up. I just got a call from Rory's day home lady. He's sick, so I have to go grab him soonish, as soon as we're done, if you're wondering what happened. Julia wants to know, how did your partners see a difference in your behavior after you joined the Stepmom story? Yeah, go ahead, Christy.
I can honestly tell you that there was a big shift, and Ray actually said to me in one of our discussions when I was, like, I can't do this and I need your help and, like all this stuff. He actually said to me that the biggest thing for him is that he needs me to not be negative, because that, really affects him and brings him down. And having him say that to me, I was like, oh, I didn't realize how often that was probably happening. And I've really made a conscious effort to change, how I approach things, but that wouldn't have been possible without all of the work I've done on myself. And, things are way better. And he definitely noticed a difference. My mom, who I'm super close to, is, said it's like day and night. Like literally everybody around me has noticed that has been a huge difference, and they noticed it within an hour and a half. Like honestly, it was that fast. So yeah, it definitely makes a big difference.
Thanks for.
Yeah,
I muted myself.
Okay. Yeah, well, Christy, that my husband has said a very similar thing. Like when I had asked him in the past, like, well, like if he was having a hard time, like, well, how can I help you? And a lot of times his response, maybe every time, I don't know, like it is like, you can help me by not freaking out, all, like not just like being happy yourself. Yeah. And so I think the most telling thing for that I've heard him say is just like since at different points, like after starting this story, like probably in the spring around like helping with school, he'll just say things like, and who would have thought, like you were so worried back when this started, and look at you now, you're just the best stepmom ever. And it's like, look at all the stuff you're doing. And so I don't, yeah. And so much of the work is like this internal thing that, I don't know how much he knows that like that it all is coming from like all this internal work or anything, but yeah, I think that's like the most telling comment.
Mm-hmm.
I want to contribute really quickly. For me, like, because the kids were having a tantrum, then now I'm having a tantrum and I'm all mad. So he's like dealing with them, then dealing with me, and like jumping all over the place. And now, since now I've been a year in the story, and now I come in as a place of like support. So instead of throwing my tantrum in the background, I'm there like as his partner, not working against him anymore. And that's completely shifted our relationship, because it was like constant like fighting, bickering, this, that. I'm never happy. He could never make me happy no matter what he did. He could never do anything right. He's always putting out my fires. And now I'm just like content. I'm fine. They're throwing a tantrum. I got his back. I'm standing there behind him, supporting him as another like parental figure, or like talking him down because he's escalated because they're freaking out. And I'm like, it's okay, just chill out. And he's like, who are you? So the shift is huge. And like Christy said, like you do see the shift like pretty quickly, pretty freaking quickly. Like it happens fast as you work through the story and get through the chapters and work through your shit, like new person.
I was shocked, honestly. I went from being like honest to God a 10 out of 10 when it came to anxiety every day, which has never been an issue for me, to like feeling like I had this huge weight lifted like that. Crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it happens fast.
Yeah. And even now, like I noticed that Ray and I used to only talk about, stuff with the ex, and it was constantly dealing with all of this crap. And now we're finally back to being able to like, have our own relationship and talk about stuff that has nothing to do with her, and, just enjoy each other's company again. Cause that was hard for a while. So
I'll say too, I saw somebody comment, and I'm trying to remember if it was in this uplifted program or if it was something before, where someone asked if they should tell their spouse they were going to do this. I am wholeheartedly think that there should be transparency, and I do think that your spouse should know. I know in the beginning for me, I had a little bit of anxiety around, oh my God, do I tell Jason I'm talking to Brittany that I'm doing these programs, or I want to do the story, because I almost felt that there might be judgment, that, oh, what does Lindsay think are problems that she's not telling me, or, thinking there's something going on that wasn't going on, or there was an underlying layer of judgment and that I was putting on it, that I feared what he would put on it, and there wasn't. I was very like, I want to do this. This is who Brittany is, and it's for me, is how I very much made it out to be. This is for me and to work through my own stuff. He's been very supportive. And I think it's definitely, like Anne was saying, because there's so much work you do on a personal level, I think your partner can't help but see the changes. And I know for me, communication has been, which I thought we had great communication before. Now we're at a whole different level. And I feel it's because I can approach tough conversations now with a little more control and a little more clarity and a little more with my own boundaries, feeling safe to express my thoughts and opinions, which has made some of the difficult conversations that we've had to have a lot easier to get through, a lot less emotional. And I think your partner also notices the shift. And in my own experience, he has started doing some of his own work in the last year, which I never asked him to do. I just think when you see people shifting in a positive way, you can't help but be like, how can I work on my own stuff? Because each person, you can't fix anybody. We can't fix our stepkids, quote unquote fix. We can't fix what we deem needs to be fixed in our spouses. We need to just fix ourselves or improve ourselves. And that's the same for them. And I think that was a big thing that I think you just rub off, if that makes sense, right? And then you end up growing together. So, yeah.
I love that you said that, because when I really got like gung-ho into like this kind of work and things started changing for me super quickly, I got to this point where I felt like I was like outgrowing Seamus, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to be in a relationship with somebody who thinks like this, right? It was like scary because she was shedding all of these layers and all this, the person that I was when we met, right? The person he was attracted to, and the thought processes that got me attracted to him. So I was like really afraid. And I think that this is something that people don't talk about, is like when we start evolving, like we do end up shedding relationships sometimes. But Seamus said he's like super into all of this stuff now, because, and I didn't tell him to do it, right? I wasn't like, you've got to get into personal development, you've got to get into spirituality, you've got to practice mindfulness. I didn't say any of that to him, but he started doing it, figuring out what it was interesting to him, exploring his own paths, creating his own mindfulness practice essentially. And he said to me, he was like, the writing was on the wall, right? Because if you were going to keep going on this upward trajectory and I was just stuck in this like miserable place, like I knew that we weren't going to make it. So it was kind of his like motivation to see, and like things were like, my life was like so good. I was so happy. Like I was wicked. Right. And he was like, this weight. So he said, yeah, the writing was on the wall. And I think Sarah too, you said that your partner like joined a group for men too, right? They like see the change in us and they're like, I want some of that, right? I want to drink the Kool-Aid. I went in on that, because it's not something that you can make somebody do, but it's inspiring to watch, right?
It is. And I think that we get caught up, like you said, because of that fear, where it's almost like, oh my God, I need you to start doing this too. I need you to start recognizing this, because we can see, it's very easy to see other people's triggers and traumas, even when they don't see it. So it's very easy to get caught up in the, oh my God, you need to start doing this too. And a statement was made to me, I think even like 6 months ago now, that has stuck with me, where it's like, I need to focus on my own work and trust that Jason's going to do the work he needs to do. That's not my responsibility. I have to trust him in that.
Mm-hmm. And I really quickly want to say something about what you said about how it's like super easy to identify other people's triggers, right? But when it comes to our own, when it comes to identifying our own triggers, we're so close to it, right? And so I think that that's another mistake people think when they go through the uplifted challenge and they're like, okay, I've got a lot of information now, I know what to do, and they go off on their own and they don't know what to do, right? Because you need that extra layer of like the community or me holding your feet to the fire to be like, okay, this is what's happening. You're too close to it. This has been a pattern in your life for decades, right? It's not your fault that you can't see it. We can see it. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. There's a big piece of this work that can be done on your own, but there's a lot of this work that does need that like other layer of support. And yeah. Okay, last question that we've got here from Tiffany. And again, whoever wants to take it, go ahead. Tiffany asks, I love how y'all talk about it, the stepmom story, changing your life in more ways than just in your stepfamilies. Have any of you seen other relationships in your life drastically improve just due to the techniques you've learned to apply? Chrissy, you were kind of starting to talk about that with your mom, but go ahead.
Can I go first? Yes. In positive, well, I guess it's all positive in the end. I want to say positive and negative. There are relationships in my life that, because of the tools I've learned, and especially boundary setting, and yeah, my sister and I are probably in the best place we've ever been since I left home at 16. Sorry, that's going to get me emotional. And it's taken a lot of work to get there. And it's still a work in progress, but we are in the best place. I've seen her more in the last year than I probably have in the last decade. That being said, my relationship with my dad, with the tools I've been learning, I'm learning that it is what it is. And I can't hold any expectations on my dad and the relationship I wish it was and I want it to be, which in turn means that my relationship with him is distant, because I can't change him. So again, the whole you can't change people or make people see what they need to work on. I can't do that for my dad. That's up to him. And unless he's going to do that, I need to set the boundary around what my relationship can be with him because of that. I've also seen in the last 2 years friendships deepen to very new levels with certain people. And I've also lost a couple very dear friends. One I'm still struggling actually to let go with was a woman I thought was one of my best friends for the last 8 years. Something happened last summer. I expressed my emotion and boundaries, and I haven't heard from her in over a year. So you definitely see the impact in all relationships. So yeah.
The thing too is, I know people always say, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that's very true, but it's amplified when you're doing work on yourself, because you'll find either people, want to support you and want to, be around and make themselves better so that, while they see you making yourself better, or they're like, no, I liked when you were broken, and now that you're not broken like I am, well, forget you. And it's hard, especially if you've been friends with them for a long time. It's very hard to kind of let that go. But there definitely comes a time where you're like, hopefully one day you will understand and you'll do your own work, and maybe you'll kind of reconnect. But unfortunately, yeah, you can't make other people change, and you can't let them stifle you either. So it's hard. But yeah, I mean, I definitely, even with my mom and my aunt, like my mom has some mental illness issues too. And she ruminates like nobody else. Like Gina is like her wheels on fire, like all the time. And it's been funny because there's been so many times where I'm like, okay, well, you know, she can't do this because she's not a stepmom. However, you know, I can try and at least give her some of the tools I've learned to try to help her to, you know, feel better and to be able to deal with these things. And that's made a big difference too for both, you know, her and my aunt are like, what are you doing? You know, like, can I do this? Like, can you tell me what you're doing? And, you know, so it's been good. Like, it's nice to see when you're doing well and then other people around you are like, you know, I don't know what you're doing, but like, help me. So yeah.
For me, relationship wise, I find that I'm really sensitive. So if somebody is going to come and like with any kind of like judgment towards me and my decisions, I'm like, why would they say that about me? Like, I'm doing my best. It's so mean. So I brought this forward. It was my older sister. Like, we sometimes have a tough relationship, and I brought it to Brittany. I'm like, why is she so mean to me? And one of the biggest things that she really helped me realize was if you held a mirror up in front of you while this person is like passing judgment on you or anything like that, it's a reflection of something going on in their life, and it's nothing to do with you. So it's something I use now as a tool where it's almost like a guard for me, like, or a block. So I'll like, someone's saying something I don't like that's clearly nothing to do with me, has to do with them. I'll like imagine this mirror in front of me. That's your shit. You can say whatever you want to me. I'm not going to take it personally because it's yours, and I'm giving it back to you by imagining this mirror in front of me. So it helps.
What was that thing that like you'd say in elementary school or middle school? Like, I'm rubber, you're glue.
Yeah.
Everything you say bounces off of me and sticks to you.
Yeah.
100%. It's totally like that.
Yeah.
And like, once you figure that out and understand it and accept it, it's like, okay, nothing you can say is going to hurt me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So good. Thank you. And do you have anything to add?
I think everyone's kind of, you know, said that. Like, I resonated with so many of the different things. Like, you're growing and you see, and so some folks, you know, are going to grow along with you and or do their own growth, and some are not. And yeah, it's great. I mean, it's like, for me, it's helped, like the effects have helped in just like non-step family areas of my life, like my career and things like that. Like, it just extends to, you know, me believing a lot more is possible, and believing in myself. And so I know that's not like another person noticing, but yeah, that's the effect there.
But it's a big change, big transition.
Yeah, big change. Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. Viewers, big round, virtual, energetic round of applause for our amazing panelists who are so generous with their time today. They all volunteered their time. So everyone, show your appreciation, say thank you in the group, tag them and thank them. If you guys want to be tagged, just volunteer you to get hundreds of comments tagged on Facebook. I'm sorry. Maybe just a virtual thank you is good. And yeah, I hope that was helpful for everyone. It's like amazing for me to watch you all grow and change and evolve, and I have the best job in the world, and I couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for being here. Watchers, thank you for watching. You're all amazing. Watchers, and even you guys, our last workshop is tomorrow, so I'll see you tomorrow afternoon for our third and final workshop. And yeah, that's all for now. Bye-bye, folks.
Have a good day.
I hope this episode got your wheels turning and showed you just how powerful you are. I would invite you to take 30 seconds and tap subscribe to this podcast. When you subscribe to the podcast, then rest assured you will never miss an episode. And in no time, spinning your wheels will be a thing of the past. Thank you for listening and subscribing. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if after you subscribed, you jumped on over and left me a 5-star review, and better yet, a written review. I am on a mission to let every mom and stepmom know that you can create the life of your dreams. And I need your help to change the world. The world needs us. Thank you so much for subscribing and leaving me a 5-star review. I will see you next week, same time, same place. For more behind the scenes action and to get really up close and personal with me and our beautiful step family, jump on over to Instagram and follow me at The Step Queen. Don't be shy, send me a DM, tag me in your posts, tag me in your stories, let me know what you're up to and what about the podcast has been blowing your mind. I cannot wait to get to know you better, and Instagram is my jam. I love you so much. I love you so much. Make it rain, girlfriend.